The story I'm about to tell you started on a Tuesday night in October, in the Wolf exhibit of Seattle's Natural History Museum, when something that had been dead for 40 years spoke directly into my mind. Not a whisper. Not a gentle voice. A scream. I've spent 8 years working as a night janitor in that museum, and I can still hear that first wolf's voice. The moment I realized I wasn't imagining things, that the screaming in my head wasn't madness, and that being able to hear the dead was about to destroy the careful, invisible life I'd built. I never planned to work in a museum. In the fall of 2016, I was an 18-year-old girl who had just survived a car accident that killed my entire family, my mother, my father, and my younger brother, Marcus, who was only 12. I was the sole survivor, pulled from the wreckage with burns on my arms and a traumatic brain injury that the doctors said might cause unusual neurological symptoms for months or even years. What they didn't tell me was that those symptoms would never go away. I moved to Seattle 3 months after the accident, running from the small Oregon town where everyone knew my story, where I could see the pity in their eyes every time I walked into a room. I had a small settlement from the insurance company, enough to rent a studio apartment and survive while I figured out what to do with a life I never expected to be living alone. I was lost, directionless, drowning in grief and something else I didn't have a name for yet. That's when I saw the job posting for a night custodian at the Natural History Museum. The pay was barely above minimum wage, but the listing emphasized one thing that made it perfect: minimal human interaction, independent work environment, comfortable working alone for extended periods required. I applied that day. The woman who interviewed me was named Patricia Chun, the museum's facilities manager, a brisk, efficient woman in her 50s who seemed more interested in whether I could operate a floor buffer than in my tragic backstory. The night shift is 10 p.m. to 6 a.m., Tuesday through Saturday, Patricia explained during my interview. You'll be responsible for cleaning all public areas, maintaining the exhibits, and basic security monitoring. Most importantly, you'll be alone. We've had problems with night staff who can't handle the isolation, or who get spooked by the exhibits. Can you handle working by yourself in a building full of dead things? Yes, I said. It was the most honest answer I'd given anyone in months. I got the job. My training consisted of 3 nights working alongside the outgoing janitor, a man named Dennis who was retiring after 15 years. He showed me the cleaning routes, the supply closets, the security protocols, and all the small quirks of a building that had been constructed in 1962. Some of the exhibits can be weird at night. Dennis told me on my second training shift as we passed through the Mammals of North America Hall. Your mind plays tricks when you're alone. You'll see movement in your peripheral vision, hear sounds that make you jump. It's just the building settling, the HVAC system, stuff like that. You get used to it. I nodded, barely listening. I was already hearing things, soft, distressed sounds that seemed to come from nowhere and everywhere at once. I assumed it was tinnitus from the accident, another neurological symptom to add to my growing list. The museum itself was a sprawling mid-century building on Capitol Hill, with 3 floors of exhibition space and a basement level for storage and mechanical systems. The main floor housed the permanent collections, dinosaur fossils, indigenous artifacts, mineral displays. The second floor featured rotating special exhibitions and the Marine Life Hall. But the third floor, which housed the Mammals of North America exhibit, was where I spent most of my time. And where I spent most of my time was in front of the wolf diorama. It was one of the museum's oldest displays. A family of 5 gray wolves mounted in a recreation of an Olympic Peninsula forest scene, installed in 1984. The taxidermy was exceptional. The wolves looked alive, frozen mid-movement, their glass eyes catching the security lighting in unsettling ways. For the first 2 weeks, I avoided that exhibit entirely. Something about those wolves made my chest tight, made the sounds in my head grow louder and more frantic. But gradually, as I became more comfortable with my routes, I couldn't avoid them anymore. That's when I realized the sounds weren't tinnitus. They were the wolves. At first, I convinced myself it was trauma response, grief hallucinations, maybe even early onset schizophrenia. I didn't tell anyone. I just kept my headphones in, music loud enough to drown out the voices, and did my job. I became very good at being invisible. eyes down, never making small talk with the day staff, perfecting the art of existing without being noticed. For 8 years this worked. I cleaned the exhibits. I heard the dead wolves screaming. I went home. I slept. I repeated. My life had rhythm, safety, predictability. I had convinced myself that as long as I never acknowledged what I could hear, as long as I never told anyone, I could keep existing in this careful, contained way. The night that shattered everything started ordinarily enough. It was October 15th, 2024, a Tuesday evening, unseasonably cold for Seattle, with autumn rain hammering against the museum's windows. I had arrived for my shift at 10 p.m., checked in with the evening security guard, and begun my usual cleaning route on the first floor. The museum was empty, as it always was at night. Just me, the exhibits, and the quiet hum of the building's systems. I had my headphones in, a podcast playing loud enough to mask the voices I'd learned to expect from the wolf exhibit when I eventually reached the third floor. Everything was routine, predictable, safe. I had just finished cleaning the restrooms near the main entrance when the front doors, which should have been locked, opened. A man walked in. He was tall, easily 6'4", wearing an expensive dark suit that looked wrong in a closed museum at 10:30 at night. He moved with a kind of fluid grace that made something primal in my hindbrain sit up and take notice. His eyes, dark, intense, unsettling, swept the entrance hall and landed on me with laser focus. I pulled out one earbud. "We're closed," I said, my voice rougher than intended from disuse. "You need to leave." He didn't move toward the exit. He moved toward me. "Miss Ashwood," he said, his voice deep and commanding. "My name is Dante Wolf. I've been looking for you for 6 months. I need to speak with you about a very unusual ability you possess." My heart stopped. "You can hear them, can't you?" He took another step closer, his gaze never leaving mine. "The dead wolves. The ones no one else can hear. The ones that have been screaming in your mind since the night your family died." The building seemed to tilt around me. The voices in my head, the ones I'd spent 8 years hiding from, explaining away, drowning out with music and noise and willful ignorance, suddenly crescendoed into a deafening roar. I stumbled backward, my cleaning cart clattering against the wall. "How do you know that?" I whispered. Dante's expression was grim. "Because I'm dying, Miss Ashwood. My entire pack is dying. And you're the only person alive who can hear what's killing us." I didn't sleep that night. Instead, I sat on my apartment floor with my laptop, searching for everything I could find about Dante Wolf. The internet painted a very specific picture. CEO of Wolf Pharmaceuticals, net worth somewhere in the billions, known for breakthrough treatments in autoimmune disorders and rare genetic conditions. Reclusive. No public appearances before 2019. Charitable foundations focused on indigenous communities and wildlife conservation. Nothing about werewolves. Nothing supernatural. Just a successful businessman with eerily good PR. I found myself staring at his photo on the company website. Professional headshot, dark suit, those intense eyes staring directly at the camera. The same eyes that had looked at me in the museum and known my deepest secret. At 3 a.m., I pulled out the emergency bag my mother had made me promise to keep. Cash, fake ID, change of clothes. Just in case you ever need to disappear, she told me when I turned 16. I thought she was being paranoid. Now I wondered what she'd been running from. By 8 a.m., I'd made my decision. I wasn't running. I was walking straight into whatever Dante Wolf was offering, because after 8 years of hiding, I needed to know if my mother had been hiding too. I called in sick to my night shift and picked up a day shift at the museum gift shop. Something I rarely did, but I needed the distraction and the normalcy. For 6 hours, I rang up dinosaur figurines and wolf plushies while the taxidermy animals in the next room whispered their constant chorus of distress. By 11:47 a.m., the whispers had become unbearable. I told my supervisor I was sick, which wasn't entirely a lie, and took the bus downtown to the address I'd found online. Wolf Pharmaceuticals occupied a gleaming glass tower in the financial district, all modern architecture and expensive landscaping. The lobby was wrong immediately. Too quiet. The handful of people moving through the space had that same fluid grace Dante possessed, their movements synchronized in a way that made my skin crawl. They barely glanced at me, but I felt watched anyway. The receptionist, a young man with unsettlingly golden eyes, smiled when I approached. "Miss Ashwood, Mr. Wolf is expecting you. Top floor." I hadn't given my name. The elevator ride felt endless. When the doors opened on the executive floor, I was greeted by floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Puget Sound, and an office that looked more like a luxury apartment than a workplace. Dante stood at the windows, his back to me. In daylight, he looked worse than he had last night. Shadows under his eyes, a tension in his shoulders, and when he turned, I saw a slight tremor in his hands. "You came," he said simply. "You said you knew about my family." T. He gestured to an ornate service on his desk. "No. Just tell me what you want." He studied me for a long moment, then moved to his desk and pulled out a folder. "I need you to listen to dying shifters. Interview them. Interpret what the death echoes tell you. Find a pattern that leads us to a cure." "No, Miss Ashwood. I've spent 8 years trying to silence these voices," I said, backing toward the elevator. "I'm not diving deeper into them. I'm not. Not even for the truth about your family." I froze. Dante opened the folder and laid out photographs across his desk. Crime scene photos. Police reports stamped with red classified markers. Witness statements I'd never seen. And diagrams, technical drawings of a car's brake system with annotations in red ink. "Your mother was Catherine Reeves before she married," Dante said quietly. "Latent shifter. Never transformed, probably never knew what she was. But her bloodline was documented in our records going back 200 years. A bloodline that was supposed to be extinct." He laid out another photo. The accident site, but from an angle I'd never seen. Tire marks that didn't match the official report. Symbols spray-painted on nearby trees. Geometric patterns that made my eyes hurt to look at. The brake lines were cut. "Your father was forced off the road. Witnesses were paid to change their statements. And these symbols," he pointed to the spray paint, "belong to an underground faction that has been systematically eliminating latent bloodlines for decades." My legs felt weak. "Why?" "Because people like your mother, and you, are dangerous to certain powers in our world." Dante's expression was grim. "I'll tell you everything. Names. Locations. Who gave the orders. Who carried them out. Everything I know. But first you help me." "And if I refuse?" His eyes flashed gold, just for a second. "Then you go home. And in 43 days, when I'm dead, the power vacuum tears the city apart. Rogue packs will war in your streets. Thousands will die, human and shifter alike. And you'll spend the rest of your life wondering if you could have stopped it." Before I could respond, Dante swayed. His hand shot out to grip the desk, but his knees buckled. I moved without thinking, catching his arm. The moment we touched, sound exploded inside my skull. Not the dead wolves. His wolf. Alive but screaming. Dying. Being consumed from the inside by something that felt like teeth made of shadow and malice. I gasped, stumbling back, breaking contact. "You're not just dying. You're being hunted from the inside." Dante recovered slowly, his breathing labored. "What did you hear?" "Your wolf. It's not fading naturally. It's being consumed. Eaten alive by something that—" I struggled for words. "It feels deliberate. Targeted." Shock flickered across his face, followed by grim understanding. "Then it's not a disease. Someone is doing this deliberately." The office door burst open. A woman in tactical gear, dark hair pulled back, eyes scanning the room with military precision. "Sir, we have another one. Jensen just collapsed in the training facility. He's hearing them now." Dante's jaw tightened. "How long has he been with the pack?" 12 years. Loyal. Strong. No warning signs until 30 minutes ago. 18 victims, I thought. 43 days for Dante. And now I knew it wasn't illness. It was murder. Dante looked at me, his expression raw. "Will you help us?" I thought about my mother's last words, forever unknown. About the family I'd lost and the truth I'd been denied. About dead wolves screaming and a supernatural war about to spill into my city. "Show me Jensen," I said. "If I can't hear what's killing him, I'll know if I can help." Dante nodded once. Then we leave now. Welcome to my world, Kira Ashwood. I hope you survive it. I should have known my apartment wouldn't be empty. The door was unlocked when I got home at 7 p.m. After spending the afternoon at the Wolf Pharmaceuticals medical facility watching Jensen deteriorate. I'd heard his wolf dying, screaming inside him. And I'd left before I could hear it stop completely. For people waited in my living room. 3 men and 1 woman. All with that same predatory stillness I'd seen in Dante. The woman stood as I entered. She was tall, lean, with sharp features and ice blue eyes that assessed me the way a wolf might assess prey. Kira Eshuud. I'm Sarah, Dante's second in command. Get out of my apartment. No. She gestured to my couch. Sit down. We need to talk. I already spoke with Dante. Dante's too soft, Sarah interrupted. He offered you a choice. I'm showing you why you don't have one. Before I could respond, she spread photographs across my coffee table. Dozens of them. Shifters in hospital beds, their bodies wasted, their eyes hollow. Children. Teenagers. Elderly men and women. 17 dead, Sarah said, her voice flat. 23 currently infected. At this rate, we're projecting 200 within 3 months. She dropped medical reports next to the photos. I caught fragments. Rapid muscle deterioration. Complete neurological breakdown. Psychological collapse preceding death. These people are dying in agony, Sarah continued. They hear voices that drive them mad before their bodies give out. And you're the only person who hears the same voices and isn't dying. One of the men, massive, with a scar across his jaw, leaned forward. You think this is just a shifter problem? There are 50,000 of us in North America. We maintain the balance. We keep rogues in check. We prevent exposure. If the wolf pack falls, every pack will fight for territory. Sarah's eyes never left mine. Your human world depends on our staying stable. If we go to war, we won't be careful about hiding anymore. Cities will burn. Tous will die. And it will start here, in Seattle, when Dante dies and leaves a power vacuum no one can fill. My hands were shaking. You're threatening me. I'm showing you reality. Sarah gathered the photos. Now, you can help us get answers about your mother's death and maybe save lives. Or you can refuse and watch your city tear itself apart in 6 weeks. I thought about Jensen's dying wolf, about Dante's 43-day deadline, about my mother, who'd apparently been running from this world her entire life. If I do this, I said carefully, I want full access to your research, complete transparency about my mother's death, and the ability to leave whenever I choose. Sarah smiled coldly. Done. Pack a bag. You're coming with us tonight. Where? The Wolf Estate. You can't interview dying shifters from your apartment. The drive north took 2 hours. I sat in an SUV with Sarah and 2 guards, Beck, the scarred man, and Tomas, younger but no less dangerous. The Olympic Peninsula unfolded around us, old-growth forests swallowing the highway as we drove deeper into wilderness. You need to understand pack hierarchy, Sarah said, her eyes on the road. Dante is Alpha, absolute authority. I'm Beta, second in command. Below us are Deltas, specialized roles like security and healing. Omegas are the foundation, the majority of pack members. And me. You're human. You have no rank. That makes you vulnerable. Beck glanced back from the passenger seat. Rule 1. Never challenge an alpha directly. Rule 2. Don't touch anyone without permission. We're territorial. Rule 3. Don't trust anyone completely. Not even Dante. I frowned. Why not? Sarah's cold smile returned. Because everyone has secrets. Even dying kings. The Wolf Estate appeared through the trees like something from another century. A massive lodge built of timber and stone, surrounded by outbuildings and training facilities, all hidden in a valley that satellites probably couldn't see clearly. Lights glowed in dozens of windows. People, shifters, move through the grounds with purpose. Hundreds live here, Sarah explained as we parked. The outside world thinks it's a corporate retreat. It's actually the heart of the largest pack in North America. The moment I stepped out of the SUV, I felt eyes on me. Shifters emerged from buildings, paused mid-conversation, turned to stare. The attention was suffocating. They can smell you're human, Beck muttered. Most won't like you being here. We walked through the compound, Sarah leading, Beck and Tomas flanking me like guards. Whispered conversations followed us. I caught fragments. Human. Desperation. Trust her with. The main lodge was overwhelming. Vaulted ceilings, timber beams, a fireplace large enough to stand in, and 6 people waiting in what looked like a war council. My inner circle, Sarah said. Marcus, Dante's advisor. Nora, our healer. Ajax, head of security. Elena, territory liaison. Kai, tech specialist. And you've met Beck. Marcus was the oldest, maybe 60, with gray hair and eyes that held no warmth. You're asking us to trust our alphas. Life to a human with an unexplained ability. Forgive our skepticism. Before I could respond, Dante entered. He looked better than this morning, rested, stronger. Kira, thank you for coming. I didn't have much choice. A flicker of something, guilt, crossed his face. I'd like you to interview Jensen. Tonight. He's deteriorating rapidly. Marcus stood abruptly. She's untrained, unvetted. We should wait. We don't have time to wait, Dante said quietly. Jensen is dying. If Kira can hear what's killing him, we need to know now. Every eye in the room turned to me. All right, I said. Show me. The medical facility occupied the compound's west wing. Clinical, sterile, at odds with the rustic lodge. Jensen lay in a hospital bed, hooked to monitors that beeped irregularly. He was maybe 35, with the build of a fighter, now reduced to trembling weakness. Shifters crowded the doorway, watching. Dante stood beside me. Nora, the healer, monitored Jensen's vitals. I approached the bed slowly. The moment I focused, the voices hit me like a tsunami. Dead wolves. Dozens of them. But these weren't the random, anguished cries I heard in the museum. These were organized. Deliberate. They called Jensen's name in chorus, their voices layered and synchronized. They know him, I whispered. These aren't just dead wolves. They were murdered. And whoever killed them is using their souls as weapons. Jensen's eyes snapped open, glowing amber. When he spoke, it wasn't his voice. It was layered, multiple tones speaking in unison. Speaker. Finally. We've been waiting. Find us. Free us. Before he completes the harvest. Jensen convulsed violently. Monitors screamed. Nora rushed forward. But within seconds, Jensen went completely still. He's gone, Nora said quietly, checking his pulse. That was faster than the others. Marcus rounded on me, his face twisted with rage. You killed him. Dante stepped between us, his voice sharp with command. She discovered more in 5 minutes than we have in 6 months. These aren't deaths. They're sacrifices. Someone is harvesting wolf souls and weaponizing them. I was shaking, Jensen's layered voice still echoing in my skull. And they just told me I'm next. The room went silent. Then we find who's doing this, Dante said. Before they harvest anyone else. Including me. Kira couldn't sleep. The guest room they'd given her was beautiful. Large windows, soft sheets, the faint scent of pine and smoke. But the silence was wrong. Too deep. Too deliberate. The kind of quiet that only predators made when they were listening. Every floorboard creak outside her door made her heart jolt. Every whisper of wind against the glass felt like breath. At 3:04 a.m., she gave up. She sat on the edge of the bed, running her fingers through her hair. When a sound broke the stillness, a distant, haunting chorus. Not voices. Not the death echoes that lived in her head. These were real. Wolves calling to the moon. Drawn to the window, she peered through the glass. Below, the forest came alive. Dozens of wolves ran between the trees, their movements fluid, wild, beautiful. Silver light washed over them, for glinting like liquid mercury. They weren't the feral beasts of storybooks. They were warriors, running in unison, bound by instinct older than language. And then one broke from the pack. A massive black wolf with gold eyes stopped at the edge of the clearing, head tilted toward her window. He stared straight at her, motionless, the moon reflecting in his gaze. Dante. Kira froze, breath shallow. The wolf held her stare for a long moment. then moved, bones cracking, body shifting until the man stood in his place. She turned away quickly as he pulled a small box from beside a tree, dressing without speaking. "Can't sleep either?" His voice came quietly from below. She glanced down, meeting his gaze again through the glass. "You make it sound like I have a choice." He smiled faintly. "Come on. Walk with me." Outside, the night air was cold and sharp, smelling of rain and pine. The ground was damp under her bare feet as they walked through the quiet compound, the sounds of the forest filling the silence between them. "Most of them don't trust you," Dante said after a while. "Because you're human. Some don't trust you because you can do something they can't. And a few don't trust you because they're afraid I've grown desperate enough to believe in impossible cures." Kira looked up at him. "Are you?" He paused, hands in his pockets. "I'm desperate enough to try anything." "That's different." She didn't argue. "Tell me about your symptoms," she said softly. He took a slow breath, exhaling like the words hurt to form. "It started 3 weeks ago." Whispers. "A shadow in my head where my wolf used to be. It feels like drowning, slow, quiet, unstoppable. Every morning I wake up and feel him further away. In 40 days, he'll be gone completely. And when he dies, I die." The vulnerability in his voice hit her harder than she expected. "I know that feeling," she murmured. "After the accident, I watched my family die. Then I woke up hearing voices that wouldn't stop. My mother's last word was speaker. I didn't know what it meant. Still don't really." Dante glanced down at her. "We'll find out together." By morning, the compound was awake. Shifters moved with military precision, their gazes flicking toward her as she entered the research wing. Kai, the PAX tech specialist, met her with a tablet in hand. 6 months of data, he said. Victim profiles, symptom logs, autopsy reports, historical texts. Dive in wherever you want. Kira started with the archives. Most were digital scans of centuries-old manuscripts written in a mix of Latin and Old Norse. And buried deep within them, she found the word again, speaker. According to the records, speakers were rare human-shifter hybrids who could communicate with wolf spirits, mediating between the living and the dead. They ensured safe transitions when wolves died, guiding souls to rest instead of letting them linger. But 3 centuries ago, during the Purge Wars, they were hunted to extinction, feared because they could supposedly control shifters through their wolf spirits. By dusk, her eyes burned from reading, but a pattern began to form. Every infected shifter's file linked back to one bloodline, the wolf line. Some were direct relatives. Others were mated to them, or descended from the same ancestral pack. She took the data to Dante and Marcus. "The victims aren't random," she said. "They're connected to your family." Marcus barely glanced up from his notes. "The wolf line is extensive. Correlation isn't causation." "But if someone's targeting your bloodline," Dante said slowly, "then this isn't a disease. It's extermination," Kira finished. "From the inside out." That evening, another infected was brought into the medical wing. A young woman named Lydia, 22. Pale, trembling, her eyes glassy with terror. "Please," she whispered. "I don't want to die like the others." Kira took her hand and closed her eyes. The voices came instantly, violent, layered, furious. But she didn't pull away this time. "Who are you?" she whispered inwardly. "What do you want?" Images hit her like a storm. A ritual chamber carved from stone. A blood-stained altar. Wolves chained and slaughtered. Their spirits ripped from their bodies and sealed into glowing crystals. A hooded figure stood over them, chanting, harvesting. And carved into the altar's surface, a symbol. A wolf's head marked with 3 slashes. Kira gasped, jerking back. Lydia was unconscious, her pulse weak. Later, in the council room, she drew the symbol from memory. Sarah's expression darkened. "That's old. Pre-pack wars. It belonged to the wolf hunters. Humans who captured shifters and sold their bodies." Marcus frowned. "Those monsters were eradicated centuries ago." "Apparently not," Dante said. Kira met his gaze. "The dead wolves keep saying, 'Find us. Free us.' They're showing me where their bodies are being kept. The curse is anchored to their remains." "Then we find the site," Dante said. Marcus slammed a hand on the table. This could be a trap. We don't know if these visions are real or manipulated. Sarah crossed her arms. And we can't ignore the first solid lead we've had in months. Ajax, head of security, nodded. I'll assemble a strike team. Small. Silent. We'll scout first. Engage only if necessary. When the meeting ended, Dante caught up with her outside. There's something you should see. He handed her a thin folder. Inside were photographs and official documents. Your mother, he said. Her name was Elena Ashwood. But before she was adopted, there are no records. No birth certificate. No history before age 5. Kira studied the black and white photo. Her mother, smiling faintly, eyes shadowed. You think she was a speaker, she whispered. I think someone tried to erase her past, Dante said quietly. And when they realized she'd passed the gift to you, they made sure she couldn't warn you. Kira looked up at him, heart pounding. Then who were my grandparents? Where did the bloodline start? That, he said, is what we're going to find out. Later that night, she fell asleep reading through her mother's files, paper scattered across the bed. In her dreams, she stood inside the ritual chamber. The altar glowed red, the crystals humming with trapped souls. The hooded figure turned slowly toward her. And when he pulled back his hood, it wasn't a stranger. It was Marcus. Kira woke with a strangled gasp, heart racing. Moonlight cut across her bed. Something pale lay at her door. She crossed the room, picked it up. A folded note, written in neat, sharp handwriting. Don't trust the council. They're not all loyal. A friend. The dawn briefing took place beneath the flicker of holographic maps and scent of stale coffee. Ajax's voice cut through the hum of tension as he outlined the mission. 6 elite shifters, Kira included, were to follow her visions deep into the Olympic National Forest. Their target, an unregistered energy signature pulsing beneath ancient soil. Dante stood at the head of the table, his eyes dimmed by exhaustion but his presence unshaken. I'm coming, he said simply. Marcus's jaw clenched. You're too valuable to risk, Dante. Let Sarah go as alpha proxy. Dante met his gaze, steel and sorrow in his voice. My pack is dying. I lead from the front, always. No one challenged him again. As the team prepared to leave, Kira sensed the quiet fractures among them. Marcus's subtle corrections to Dante's orders. Sarah's guarded glances in her direction. Even Ajax, pragmatic and controlled, couldn't mask his unease. We're staking lives on dreams, Sarah muttered while checking her weapon. Ajax replied without looking up. We're staking lives on the best lead we've got. Nora, the healer, brushed past Kira. Voice low enough for only her to hear. Be careful. Not everyone wants you to succeed. The warning lodged in her chest like a splinter. The convoy rolled into the forest, engines growling beneath gray skies. When the road thinned into wilderness, they continued on foot. Kira walked in front, guided not by sight but by the flickering images pulsing behind her eyes, blood-stone chains. The deeper they went, the colder the air became. Whispers of old magic lingered between the trees. Dante stayed close, his steps slower than usual, his breathing shallow. Kira caught the tremor in his hands when he brushed aside a branch. How much time do you really have? She whispered. He didn't look at her. 36 days. Maybe less. The progression's accelerating. Her throat tightened. She wanted to tell him to rest. To live. But there was no time. The death echoes in her mind were growing louder. And then the forest opened. A clearing shimmered before them, concealed by an invisible veil. The moment Kira stepped forward, the illusion peeled back, revealing a stone altar slick with dried blood, silver chains coiled like serpents, and crystal vessels arranged in a perfect circle. Inside each vessel, silver mist churned like captive storms. Kira's breath caught. Trapped souls, she whispered. The symbol burned into the altar. A wolf's head scored by 3 deep slashes. Ajax scanned the perimeter, rifle ready. This is too easy. Where's the architect? The answer came in a low growl. The air rippled as the barrier sealed behind them, cutting off their exit. Figures emerged from the tree lean, rogue shifters, at least 20. A massive wolf stepped forward, shifting into a scarred man. The Alpha King, he sneered. And the speaker. Marcus will be pleased. Dante froze. Marcus. Before Kira could speak, the rogues attacked. The forest exploded into chaos. Blades flashed. Wolves clashed in a blur of fur and blood. Kira stayed behind Sarah and Beck, her power flaring uselessly against the magical net encasing the clearing. Dante tore through his enemies, but Kira saw the strain, the weakening muscle, the blood flecking his lips. The rogue leader lunged for him. "You're already dying, Alpha. Let me speed it up." Kira's heart thundered. In desperation, she grabbed one of the crystal vessels. The moment her fingers touched it, agony ripped through her skull. A soul screamed inside her mind. Instinct took over. She smashed the vessel against the altar. The freed soul surged into her chest, a blinding storm of rage and sorrow. For an instant, she was two beings, herself, and something ancient and furious. "Help them," she gasped. Spectral wolves erupted from the ground, wreathed in silver fire. They tore through the rogues, silent as vengeance itself. The enemy broke ranks. "She's a speaker." Marcus didn't say she was awakened. They fled into the woods, leaving their dead behind. Kira collapsed to her knees, trembling as the voice of the freed wolf echoed through her thoughts. "Thank you, speaker. But there are dozens more. Free them all, and we will serve." By nightfall, they limped back to the SUVs. Dante carried Kira in his arms, his expression unreadable. Behind them, Sarah whispered to Ajax, "Marcus set this up. He sent us here." Ajax's jaw tightened. "We can't prove it." "Not yet." Dante's voice cut through them both. "He's been my advisor for 20 years. My father's friend before that. I need to be sure." Marcus was waiting in the great hall when they returned, flanked by council members. His concern looked well rehearsed. "Thank the moon you're safe. We heard of rogue activity near the forest." Dante's eyes burned. "Yes. Rogues who knew exactly where we'd be." Marcus blinked, feigning surprise. "Are you suggesting?" Kira stepped forward, still pale. "They mentioned your name. Said you'd be pleased if we were captured." "Rogues lie," Marcus said smoothly. "They wanted to sow division. Don't let them win." But the doubt had already taken root. Hours later, Kai brought new data. Encrypted communications from Marcus's office to untraceable numbers, payments to offshore accounts. Nothing concrete, but enough to reek of betrayal. Marcus dismissed it with a thin smile. "I've been funding healers and researchers for Dante's condition. Of course there are expenses." The council murmured, divided. Dante said nothing. But Kira saw it, the storm building behind his eyes. That night she acted. With the wolf soul's power coursing through her, Kira slipped through the compound's shadows, her consciousness extending beyond flesh. The spectral wolf guided her to Marcus's private office. Behind a false wall, she found a hidden safe. Inside, photographs of ritual sites, coded letters, and a leather journal bound in dark hide. She opened it, and felt her stomach twist. 20 years of planning, the first line read. 20 years watching Dante's father refuse to save my daughter. They let her die because the treatment was too dark. Now they'll learn loss. Kira brought the evidence to Dante before dawn. He read in silence, face hardening with every word. My father refused the ritual because it required harvesting wolf souls, he said hoarsely. Marcus learned to do it anyway, and now he's punishing us for his daughter's death. Kira's eyes glistened. He's been building this curse for decades. Dante's hands closed the book with trembling resolve. Then we ended at dawn. But before the sun could rise, the alarm tore through the compound. Sarah burst in, blood on her sleeve. Rogues, north perimeter. Dozens of them. It's a full assault. Dante turned toward the window, his voice a low growl. Marcus knows we found him out. This is his endgame. The night burned red. Rogues had breached the outer defenses, their howls splitting the air as fire lit the sky above the compound. The courtyard was chaos, wolves clashing, steel flashing under torchlight, the scent of blood heavy in the air. Dante's voice thundered over the madness. Protect the young and the injured. Everyone else, defensive positions. Hold the line. He shifted mid-command, his massive wolf form erupting from flesh and bone. His roar scattered nearby enemies as his pack tightened ranks around him. Kira sprinted to his side, heart hammering. This isn't the real attack, she shouted. Marcus wants us focused here while he finishes the ritual. Dante's golden eyes burned through the smoke. The harvest, he growled. He's going to complete it tonight. But he couldn't leave. His pack needed him. His presence was the only thing holding the defense together. Sarah appeared, blood streaking her arm. I'll go after him, she offered. Dante shook his head. No. You lead the defense. His gaze shifted to Ajax. Take 5 of our best and intercept Marcus before he finishes the ritual. End this. I'm going to, Kira said. Dante turned sharply. No. It's too dangerous. If Marcus completes the binding, you die anyway, she said quietly. Let me do this, Dante. He stared at her for a long moment, then nodded once. Go. And come back. They left through the north breach. Ajax, Beck, Tomas, Nora, Elena, and Kira. The SUV tore through the forest roads, headlights cutting through the fog like knives. Every mile closer to the Olympic site, Kira's skin crawled with dread. The death echoes pulsed louder in her skull. They arrived just before midnight. The clearing shimmered again, alive with silver light and the stench of blood. Marcus stood before the altar, 6 rogues flanking him. A woman in black robes chanted in a language older than time, her voice trembling the air itself. 20 crystal vessels glowed on the stone, each swirling with a soul's trapped agony. Marcus turned as they approached, smiling thinly. I wondered when you'd catch up, speaker. You're sharper than your mother ever was. Kira froze. You killed my family. I eliminated a threat, he said calmly. Your mother was beginning to remember what she was. If she'd awakened, she'd have sensed my curse the moment I activated it. I couldn't allow that. Rage broke through her like flame. Ajax raised his gun. It's over, Marcus. Surrender now and face pack justice. Marcus laughed, a sound without warmth. You think 6 shifters can stop me? Do you know what 20 wolf souls can do? The witch's chant rose. The crystals pulsed, glowing like stars ready to implode. Marcus spread his arms. Each soul bound to Dan. To S bloodline. When I release them, the curse will devour every wolf alive. 53 shifters gone in minutes. Kira's stomach dropped. That's why you sent us to the first site, she realized. You needed me to awaken. To prove I was the real speaker. Marcus's smile sharpened. And now I'll erase you before you can undo my work. The rogues attacked. Ajax's team scattered, engaging in brutal close combat. Metal clashed. Wolves collided, blood painted the stones. Marcus shifted, his wolf form towering, larger, darker, pulsing with black magic. He slammed into Ajax, throwing him across the clearing. Kira raced for the altar, reaching toward the first vessel. The moment her fingers brushed the glass, pain exploded through her skull. The souls screamed, alive, conscious, desperate. The witch's voice thundered. Only I can release them, speaker. And I serve Marcus. Nora fought near Kira's side, blade dripping crimson. If you force it, Kira, they'll be destroyed, true death. Marcus's snarl echoed across the clearing. Yes, speaker. Free them and you kill them. Leave them, and Dante dies. Choose. Kira's breath came in ragged bursts. There was no right choice, only loss. Then instinct took over. She didn't try to free them. She invited them. Come to me, she whispered, voice trembling. I'll be your anchor. You don't have to die. The air ruptured. The crystals shattered one by one as silver mist burst free, then surged toward her. Each soul struck like lightning, flooding her veins, her mind, her breath. It wasn't possession. It was symbiosis. Memories, power, emotion. Dozens of lives weaving into hers. She felt the forest breathe, the heartbeat of every living wolf. Her eyes glowed molten silver as spectral wolves materialized around her, circling protectively. The agony was unbearable. Her human body strained, cracking under divine weight. But she held on, because through it all, she felt him. Dante. His pulse, his pain, his fight miles away. And then relief. His energy surged stronger, renewed. The curse was breaking. Marcus howled. No. 20 years of work. He lunged for her. Ajax intercepted him, blades flashing. Beck and Tomas joined, fighting with feral desperation. The witch raised her hands, chanting again. But Kira's voice entered her mind, showing her Marcus's betrayal, his plan to discard her once the ritual was done. The witch faltered. I agreed to bind the dead, not destroy the living. With a flick of her hand, the spell shattered, and she vanished into the air, abandoning him. Marcus was alone, his rage uncontained. If I can't kill Dante through the curse, I'll kill him myself. He broke free of Ajax's grasp, bloodied and snarling, bolting into the forest. Ajax wiped blood from his mouth. He's going for the compound. Dante's still fighting, he won't see it coming. Kira collapsed to her knees, silver light flickering under her skin. Go warn him. I can't move. Ajax hesitated. I'm not leaving you. The souls will protect me, she whispered. Savior Alpha. Reluctantly, Ajax motioned the survivors to move. They vanished into the forest, chasing Marcus's trail. Kira lay on the altar, light dimming in her veins. Around her, the 20 freed souls circled in silent vigil, silver wolves shimmering against the dark. In her mind, they spoke as one. Thank you, Speaker. Now rest. When you wake, you will be changed forever. But you will live. And so will he. The clearing went still. Her breathing slowed, her body faintly glowing as the spectral pack guarded her slumber. Miles away, at the compound, Dante tore through another wave of rogues, exhausted, bleeding, unaware of the shadow closing in behind him. Marcus, in monstrous wolf form, burst from the smoke, jaws wide. He lunged for Dante's throat. Blackness swallowed everything. Kira surfaced from a dark, endless sleep into a blinding sea of light and noise. Every heartbeat in the building thudded in her ears. Every breath sounded like wind rushing through her skull. The scent of antiseptic, steel, and wolf filled her lungs. She gasped, sitting upright, drenched in sweat. Cure easy. Nora's voice was steady but strained. The healer's hands glowed faintly as threads of golden energy wrapped around Kira's trembling body. You've been unconscious for 72 hours. Your body went into shock. We weren't sure you'd survive. Kira blinked rapidly, trying to ground herself. 72 hours? Her throat was dry, her voice cracking. Dante. Nora's gaze faltered, her magic dimming. Alive, she said softly. But you need to see for yourself. Every step down the hall felt wrong. Her balance was off, her skin humming with static. The walls pulsed with faint silver light, threads running from room to room. No, not light. Souls. She could see them, faint glowing cores tethered by invisible bonds. Every shifter shimmered with energy, their wolf spirits half visible beneath their skin. And inside her voices. 20 of them. Whispering, restless, alive. Kira. We see through you now. We live again because of you. She pressed her hands against her temples. Quiet, she whispered. But the voices only softened, blending into her heartbeat. When she reached Dante's quarters, Sarah was there, tending to him. He was pale but breathing, bandaged from chest to shoulder. The moment she stepped inside, his head snapped up, his eyes finding hers with a sharpness that stole her breath. He could feel her. Sarah sensed it too. With a small nod, she rose and left them alone. Dante stood slowly, favoring his side. You did it, he rasped. The curse is broken. I can feel my wolf again, strong, whole. But beneath his words, Kira saw what he tried to hide. Silver wounds still burned faintly across his skin, refusing to heal. What happened? She asked. Marcus, Dante said grimly. He got his claws in deep. Ajax's team arrived in time to save me, but Marcus escaped into the forest with what was left of his rogues. We lost 8. 23 more are injured. His voice faltered. Beck didn't make it. The air between them thickened with grief. Dante studied her, eyes narrowing. You're different. Kira looked away. I can see souls. Threads between every shifter. The wolves I freed, they're still inside me. She exhaled shakily. I'm not just Kira anymore. I'm something else. He frowned. Can you separate from them? I don't think so, she said quietly. And I don't think I want to. The council room buzzed with tension that night. Holographic maps flickered, showing defensive perimeters and rogue activity. Kai's voice cut through the noise. Marcus had contingency plans, safe houses, allied rogues, maybe even witches. He could disappear for years. Sarah slammed her hand on the table. Or strike again tomorrow. Ajax folded his arms. We need to flush him out before he regroups. Kira spoke up, calm but firm. He'll come for me. Every head turned. I'm the reason his plan failed. If I make myself known, if word spreads that a speaker has returned, he won't be able to resist. Dante's chair scraped back. Absolutely not. You've nearly died twice already. And I'll keep nearly dying, Kira said, until he stopped. That night, Dante came to her room. Moonlight poured across the floor, silver and still. When Marcus attacked me, he said quietly, the only thing I thought about was you. Not the pack. Not duty. You. Her chest tightened. This connection between us, it's not normal, is it? He shook his head. No. Humans and shifters don't bond like this. But you're not fully human anymore, are you? Their lips met, hesitant then fierce. It felt inevitable. But when they broke apart, their foreheads pressed together, both trembling. This is complicated, he whispered. Everything about this is, she replied. The next morning, Kai sent encrypted transmissions through shifter networks. A speaker has risen at the Wolf compound. The curse is broken. The dead have spoken. Within hours, messages flooded back, requests, warnings, fear. And somewhere out there, Marcus was watching. They planned the memorial as bait. An open ceremony in the central clearing. Visible guards. Vulnerability. A perfect lure. Dante hated it. But he agreed. Ajax runs the hidden team. Sarah leads the front guard. Marcus won't know what hit him. 3 days later, the pack gathered under a morning sky. Torches flickered around the clearing. Kira stood before them, wind lifting her hair as she spoke the names of the fallen. They gave everything, she said, voice clear and strong. And I will make sure their sacrifice means something. The souls within her stirred, restless. Hunter. Predator. Death comes. And then movement. Marcus burst from the trees, wolf form monstrous, blackened by dark magic. 12 rogue shifters followed, eyes glowing red. The air rippled as they passed through the wards. If I'm going to die, Marcus snarled, voice like thunder. I'll take you with me, speaker. Chaos erupted. Ajax's hidden teams engaged, silver flashes cutting through the dark. Dante shifted, his massive gray form slamming into Marcus. Kira tried to summon her spirits, but Marcus's wards repelled them, shimmering like chains of smoke. He shielded, one of the voices hissed. You must go deeper. She saw Dante falter, blood streaking his fur. Something inside her broke. She closed her eyes and reached beyond herself, beyond the compound, beyond the living. All of you, she whispered into the void. Come. The forest answered. Hundreds of spectral wolves emerged, transparent, luminous, howling as one. They charged through the clearing, disrupting Marcus's rogues, turning confusion into terror. Marcus roared, defiant even as the tide turned. He lunged at Kira, claws raised, teeth bared. Dante intercepted, taking the blow meant for her. He fell, blood dark against silver grass. Kira screamed. The 20 souls within her erupted outward, forming a circle of light. They seized Marcus, freezing him mid-strike. Kira stepped forward, eyes glowing pure silver. You killed my family, she said. You tortured the innocent. You tried to destroy everything. I'd do it again, Marcus spat. Then suffer you will. Her hand rose, and his wolf screamed as it was ripped from him, severed, undone. Marcus collapsed, human, powerless. Death would have been kinder, Kira whispered. The battlefield stilled. Rogues were slain or captured. But Dante lay dying, silver burning through his veins. Nora worked desperately. The wounds are too deep. The silver's in his blood. Kira fell beside him, shaking. No. I can't lose him. She placed her hands on his chest. The souls surrounded her, waiting. If you do this, Nora warned, you'll be bound forever. Life, power, emotion, even death. Kira didn't hesitate. Do it. Light flared, blinding, pure. The silver burned away from Dante's wounds. His eyes flew open with a gasp, just as Kira collapsed. He caught her hand. voice trembling in her mind for the first time. Kira, what did you do? Her lips parted in a faint smile. I saved you. Now save me back. Kira woke to warmth. The faint weight of a hand entwined with hers. A steady rhythm, thump, thump, thump. That wasn't her heartbeat alone. For a breathless moment, she didn't know where she was. Then she turned her head and saw Dante. He sat beside her, dark eyes shadowed from sleepless nights, but alive. Awake. Watching her. You're back, he whispered, voice hoarse. 3 days. You've been out 3 days again. Her breath hitched. 3 days. Again. She tried to speak, but the moment she opened her mouth, something else happened. She felt him. His relief washing through her chest like sunlight through glass. His heartbeat synced with hers, his wolf stirring beneath her skin as though it recognized her. Dante, she whispered. I can feel you. I know. His thumb brushed her knuckles, voice trembling. I can feel you too. The bond pulsed between them, alive, sacred, impossible. By the time Nora arrived, Kira could barely distinguish where her own emotions ended and Dante's began. The healer's expression was unreadable as she studied them both. You created something lost to time, Nora said finally. A spirit bond. She explained it quietly, reverently. It ties a speaker to an alpha. Deeper than mate bonds. You share life force. If one dies, the other follows. You share power. You share emotions. There's no hiding from one another now. Dante's hand tightened around Kira's. Ancient texts called it myth. It was, Nora said. Until now. The world beyond their walls had changed faster than either could process. Word spread like wildfire. A speaker lives, and she's bound to the Wolf Alpha. Delegations began to arrive from every territory. Some came in awe, others in fear. The council chamber brimmed with tension and whispers. If other alphas see this bond as weakness, one councilman warned, they'll challenge you. Kai countered sharply. Or they'll see opportunity. A speaker allied with Wolf makes us the strongest pack on the continent. Dante's gaze found Kira's across the table. He didn't say it aloud, but she heard it anyway through their bond. They'll come for you before they ever come for me. Adjusting to the bond was agony and wonder in equal measure. Kira could feel Dante's emotions constantly, his buried rage, his fear when she left his sight, his aching protectiveness. And he could feel her grief like an echo. When her memories of her mother clawed their way back at night, Dante's heartbeat would quicken even in sleep. He'd reach for her before waking, pulled by something deeper than instinct. They learned to build mental walls together, to give each other fragments of peace. Yet neither of them regretted it. The bond was wild, consuming, permanent, and neither wanted to undo it. Marcus's trial came under gray skies. Stripped of his wolf, he stood bound before the pack he'd betrayed. Evidence of his crimes filled the air like smoke. Murders, curses, lives shattered. When given the chance to speak, Marcus lifted his chin, eyes empty. Dante's father let my daughter die, he said. I made him pay. I'd do it again. The verdict was unanimous, death. But Dante stepped forward. No, he said, his voice carrying across the clearing. Death is mercy. He turned to Marcus, gaze cold as iron. You'll live. Human. Powerless. Exiled. You wanted power above all, so live without it. Kira felt his conviction, his pain, the way justice burned inside him. And through the bond, she lent him calm. Days later, Kira found herself in the pack archives, drawn by something unspoken. Dante stayed near. He didn't have to ask why. She searched the oldest records until she found it. A document from 1977. Speaker child, female, missing after Hunter raid. Presumed dead. Her mother's name wasn't there, but her birth year matched. Elena Ashwood. Kira murmured, tracing the faded ink. She was that child. She survived. Her mother had been the last speaker before her. A survivor who'd hidden so well the world forgot speakers existed at all. Kira's voice cracked. She ran her whole life to keep me safe. And still it found us. Dante's arms slid around her shoulders, grounding her. She gave you life twice, he murmured. Once when she birthed you. Again when she taught you to hide. She didn't fail, Kira. You're here. You're her legacy. Through the bond, Kira felt his awe, his fierce pride in her. And for the first time, she saw herself through his eyes. Not cursed, not broken. Chosen. That night, Dante led her into the forest. The moon hung low over the trees, silver on his hair. I need to ask you something, he said, voice steady but quiet. Not as your alpha. Just as me. From his pocket, he drew a simple silver ring, a moonstone catching the light. We're already bound in every way that matters, he said. But I want more than survival. I want choice. He stepped closer, eyes searching hers. Be my mate, not because we're tied by power but because we choose each other. Kira's heart stuttered. I'm not a shifter. I barely know what I am anymore. He smiled faintly. You don't have to fit my world. You're remaking it. Let me stand beside you while you do. Her eyes burned. Yes, she whispered. I choose you. The bond between them flared, soft, steady, eternal. Plans for the ceremony began the next day. The full moon would mark their union. But danger crept beneath the celebration. Sarah reported grimly. 3 packs pledged loyalty. 5 stay neutral. 2 have gone silent. The hostile ones fear her power. Dante's jaw clenched. They'll strike before they let her grow stronger. Kira's eyes gleamed silver. Then let them come. I'm done hiding. As days passed, her abilities deepened. She could feel the strength of living wolf spirits, detect corruption before it took root, even heal spiritual wounds. Shifters began traveling miles to seek her aid. In saving Dante, she had become something sacred, something terrifying. One evening, a visitor arrived unannounced. An old man, hair silver white, eyes burning gold. My name is Ezra, he said. I've walked this earth 3 centuries. I remember the age of speakers. He requested a private audience. The moment he spoke, the air seemed to darken. The speakers were not wiped out by chance, he said. They were feared, because at their peak, they could command death itself, resurrect, imprison, even steal wolves from the living. Power beyond control. He looked at Kira with a sorrow older than time. You are already stronger than any speaker I've known. Be careful what you become. Then he bowed, and left them in silence. Kira stared into the fire that night. Do you think he's right? That I could become a threat? Dante took her hand. I think you could become anything. The question is what you choose. Before she could answer, an alarm shattered the night. Ajax's voice crackled through the comms. Perimeter breach, northern gate. Dante and Kira ran, power humming through their bond. But what awaited them wasn't an enemy, it was a pack on its knees. Their alpha barely breathing. Please, one of them gasped. Our alpha's dying. Same sickness Dante had. We heard the speaker can save him. Kira's heart froze. The same curse. The same magic. Marcus was gone, but someone else was still out there. Someone who'd taught him everything. And they had just begun. 2 weeks later, the mountains of Montana rose like gray sentinels against a bleeding dawn. Kira stood beside Dante as their convoy rolled into Silver Creek's compound. Another pack dying from the same curse. Only this time, it was moving faster. The alpha, Catherine, had been infected just 3 weeks ago. Yet she was already fading. Her breaths rattled like wine through broken glass. The curse is mutating, Nora murmured, scanning Catherine's frail frame. Whoever improved Marcus's design knew what they were doing. Kira reached for Catherine's hand. Warm. Trembling. Then the echoes came, faint at first, then surging. Voices layered like ripples under ice. But these weren't the pleading souls she'd freed before. They whispered one word over and over. Trap. Her eyes snapped open. Through the bond, her voice brushed against Dante's mind. This isn't the same curse. It's stronger, Ty. Ted. Can you break it? He asked aloud. I can try, she whispered, though doubt clawed at her throat. Kira drew the circle, letting the old power rise. She opened herself to the dead. And screamed. The voices weren't begging for release. They were screaming to escape. Agony exploded through her chest, blood spilling from her nose as the curse struck back. Catherine convulsed. Her wolf ripped free in a violent burst of white light. Then silence. Kira collapsed beside the bed. I killed her, she breathed. I tried to help and I killed her. Before Dante could reach her, The floor ignited with glowing runes. Circles flared across the compound, silver light binding every exit. Shouts erupted outside as armed wolves turned their weapons inward. Half the pack shifted loyalties in an instant. Their leader, Catherine's second Victor, stepped from the shadows, blade gleaming. "You really thought we brought you here for help?" His grin was cold. "You're the offering." "Offering?" Dante growled, but silver chains lashed around his wrists, burning through flesh. Victor's eyes glinted. "The collector sends his regards. Marcus was just a puppet. My master has been harvesting wolf souls for centuries." He looked at Kira. "And you, speaker, you're the key he's been waiting for." A hush spread as the air thickened. From the darkness of the hall, a tall figure appeared. Ageless, cruel, radiating power that made the walls tremble. His eyes glowed with centuries of stolen life. "I am Valdis," he said softly. 400 years ago, I learned that wolf souls could sustain immortality. Now I need yours to complete the cycle." Kira felt her heart stutter. "You're the one behind the curse." "I am evolution," Valdis replied. "And you, my dear speaker, are perfection." He offered a hand, almost kindly. "Come willingly. I'll spare your mate and his pack." Dante's voice broke through their bond. "Don't do it. He'll kill us anyway." "You're worth everything," she answered. Kira stepped forward. The warlock's laughter was sharp as broken glass. "Oh child, mercy is for mortals." He gestured. "Kill the alpha." Victor raised his blade. Time slowed. Kira's scream ripped through the air as she reached for her bond, for the only power the circle couldn't cage. Her energy flared, gold and crimson, and poured through that invisible thread into Dante's chest. The silver in his veins burned away. His wolf roared back to life. With a deafening crack, Dante broke his chains. Fur burst from his skin mid-motion, his form twisting into the massive black wolf that haunted Kira's dreams. He tore through the traitors like shadowed lightning. Valdis recoiled, his sigils dimming. Impossible. But he wasn't facing just a shifter now. The souls bound to Kira, 20 wolves she had once freed, rose from her body like spectral fire. They surrounded her, snarling at the warlock. Across the compound, other spirits answered their call. The thousands Valdis had enslaved for centuries. Kira's voice rang out, echoing across plains. "Be free. Come to me, or go to peace." The air fractured. Ghostly wolves burst from Valdis's collection, ripping through the curse that held them. The warlock staggered as centuries of stolen power bled from him. His skin withered, his bones cracked. "If I die," he hissed, "I'll take you with me." He hurled a final curse, a death spell meant to bind Kira's soul for eternity. But the 20 wolves lunged, intercepting it. Light consumed them, their howls fading into silence as they disintegrated. Kira screamed as they vanished, her companions, her family gone. Valdis turned to ash, scattered on the wind. The mountain fell silent. But Kira's body swayed, blood seeping from her eyes. Dante caught her before she hit the ground. "Stay with me, please." He felt her heartbeat fading through their bond. The death curse hadn't taken her soul, but it was burning her from within. He made his choice. Closing his eyes, Dante drew on the bond. The same link she'd once used to save him, and pushed his life into hers. The connection flared white-hot, burning both of them. Nora's voice was distant, screaming, "Stop! You'll both die." Dante's whisper was calm. "Then we die together." But Kira's power reacted differently this time. Her speaker gift didn't just receive, it balanced. It merged. The spirit bond twisted into something new, equalizing instead of draining. The light faded. Dante gasped, alive. Kira's eyes opened, golden with his wolf's light. When she stood, the air itself bowed. The bond had fused them utterly. Two souls now one. Dante felt her heartbeat echoing inside his own chest. She shifted instinctively, her first transformation seamless. Beside her, Dante smiled through tears. "You're one of us now." "And you," she said softly, hearing whispers only she once could, "can hear them too." They were no longer speaker and alpha. They were something new. By dawn, the rebellion was over. Loyal wolves rose to power again, swearing allegiance to their saviors. Catherine's surviving beta knelt before Kira and Dante. Silver Creek stands with the wolf pack. You freed us. When they returned home, the compound erupted in howls. The curse was broken. The dead were finally at peace. Yet Kira carried quiet grief, the loss of the 20 souls who had given everything for her. Weeks later, under the full moon, the pack gathered for a single ceremony that bound not just mates, but legacies. Sarah stood before them. By the laws of the moon and the will of the spirit, I bind you, one soul, 2 hearts. When Dante kissed her, the pack howled, the sound rolling like thunder across the mountains. Later that night, they stood on the overlook where their journey began. The forest stretched endless below. What happens now? Dante asked. Kira smiled faintly. We build something new. A home where no one hides their gifts. Months passed. Young shifters with faint speaker abilities came to learn under her care. The wolf pack became a sanctuary, a place of healing. One evening, Kira returned to the museum where her mother's whispers had first called her. The taxidermy wolves were silent, freed at last. But beyond the walls, wild howls rose from the forest, real wolves living, breathing. Their voices brushed against her mind. Speaker, sister, alpha mate. We will watch. We will protect. She turned, feeling Dante's presence before she saw him. Ready to go home? He asked. She smiled, slipping her hand into his. More than ready. Together, they walked into the moonlight. 2 figures, 1 soul, leaving the darkness behind.